The Illuminati works for itself. It has no concern for any particular race, creed, movement, or nationality. It has Anglo-Saxons, Teutons, Slavs, Latins, Mongolians, Eskimos, Semites, etc. They hold the belief that it is up to man to solve his own crisis without the help of God. This appears to be the Republican Party's point of view. There are 9 masters called the Round Table of the Nine. The Illuminati may be in control here on Earth, but they are mere pawns in the game for the Luciferians. Religions teach you how to think from their point of view. That's one of the Nubians' problems. We always had someone else's point of view. Once you begin to think with a liberated mind, free of beliefs and falsehood, no one will be able to feed you lies and garbage. You will have learned to question everything. Start taking control of your life and your surroundings. Be ever ready to question anybody about what they attempt to teach and preach to you. Do not be intimidated by any force or authority. Stand for what you think is right. Don't stand in the background. Be heard, be seen, be felt, be known, be one to be reckoned with, be one to be dealt with. Don't tolerate, don't settle, make things happen. Be the life and the light of your environment. These simple principles, if practiced, will change our people. It will change everything about our people, their lifestyle and their pursuit of happiness. Anything less is belittling. The news media spends so much time telling the world of its negativity, man begins to believe the world is negative. More things that are positive happen in your life than negative. If you allow the negative things to dominate your life becomes negative, and vice versa. Are you looking at life from the small end, or do you step back and get the full picture? The etymology of violence. Vile, loathsome, disgusting, unpleasant, objectionable. Lance, a king's thrusting weapon with a long wooden shaft and a sharp metal head. The lance was used during cavalry. They decided to call it violence after the alterings of the king's lance. Deceivingly, he extended his lance to be able to kill faster in his battles, and that was a vile thing to do. Ever since the garden, Nakash, Whisperer, aka Satan, has been trying to make an evil duplicate of Codman, Adam, that would be subject to his command. That's why it's important to bury the placenta after the birth of an infant, to keep Satan from creating an evil duplicate with the exact same genes. Genesis 23:4. There is not a member of the animal kingdom which uses milk as food after it has been weaned. It remains for man to develop such stupidity and to overlook the use of milk as the cause of so many of his ailments. Nature placed the necessary ingredients in the milk of each type of animal that was best suited for the growth of its young. Milk, it's on everybody's lips. The Encyclopedia of Nutritional Supplements has a chart with 20 foods containing more milligrams per serving than calcium. Most people were never told that 6 verses of the book of Jeremiah 4:23-28 was intentionally taken out of Genesis 1:1. I will now insert it back in its proper place. You be the judge, Genesis 1. During the procreation period of the planet Earth, these Elohim and Anunnaki reconstructed 2 places up there in the skies where there was water. Jeremiah 4:23. I saw the planet Earth, and lo, it was empty and desolate, and the heavenly skies, and they had no light. This verse was duplicated and used in Genesis 1:2. I saw the mountains, and they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I looked, and lo, there was no Adamite, earthling, and all the fowls of the heavenly skies were gone. I looked, and lo, the land of Codman, fruitful garden, was a wilderness, and all the cities of it were broken down at the presence of a Yahweh, and by his fierce anger. For thus has a Yahweh said, the whole planet Earth will be desolate, but I will not make a total end. For this reason will the planet Earth mourn, and the heavenly skies above be black, because I have spoken it. I have planned it and will not be sorry, neither will I turn back from this decision. Most of the so-called Europeans of today are not really Caucasians. They are mulattoes. The pure Caucasian stock are those people with blonde hair and blue eyes. If you were to snatch the hood off most KKK, you would not find blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryans, nobles. You would find dark-haired, dark-eyed mulattoes who think that they are white. Most skinheads do not have blonde hair and blue eyes, nor did the German Chancellor Adolf Hitler. Unbeknown to them, they are a part of the Negroid race. They are the coloreds. Chupacabra was a beast that was very common during the era of the Taino Native Americans. It was raised, fattened, and then later eaten the same way the pig is prepared and eaten today. Based on ancient stories, it is described with a multicolored cloak or hair. One thing that has remained in the Puerto Rican culture even after the last Taino died and the culture disappeared was their religious ceremonies. In these ceremonies or festivals, they wore colorful beast-like masks with protrusions, which people believe looked very close to the chupacabras. These festivals, which is a historical tradition, takes place throughout Puerto Rican towns and cities annually. The Most High, Allah to the Muslims, Yahweh to the Hebrews, or God/Christ/the host to the Christians did not create the computer. He did not gift it with the senses that gives it a direct line to him. The computer does not have an ethereal umbilical cord to the Most High. It is a conglomeration of switches, keys, units, circuits, cold metal, and serpentine wires that when operational, surges with electricity to becomes its life force. It has no spiritual heart with which to feel, only a central processing unit. It has no spiritual sense with which to perceive the Creator in all his glorious splendor, only a transistor, camera, circuits, and sensors. It has no seats, chakras or lights for seeing, hearing, and feeling the messages sent by the Most High. The computer, like its master, the Luciferian, has no soul, so it cannot function on the spiritual plane. Try to open your heart before you open your mouth. Van York fascinated various Native American Indian tribes that the Lewis and Clark expedition members encountered. The chief of a Mandan tribe was so astonished by York's complexion, he tried to rub off his darkness thinking it was charcoal. It was a custom amongst the Indian tribes for the warriors to cover their bodies with charcoal in preparation for their return from battle. It signified them as the victorious warriors and denoted their bravery and fearlessness. They felt York was the strongest of the people he traveled with. Who are the biggest drug pushers in the USA? The Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA. The name itself is a confession. They are here to enforce drugs. They control how to get them, where they come from, and how they are distributed. This information, of course, is brought to you, the public, by way of the media. So now, children of all ages know exactly where to go and how they can get them. The Superman story. As the newest member of the House of El, Superman was born into a family with a centuries-long heritage of achievement in the fields of science, statesmanship, and exploration. Superman, birth name Kal-El, is the son of Jor-El, and nephew of Zor-El. There are numerous other El names in their family. This story is obviously an attempt to demelanize our ancestors, many of whom are scientists, leaders, and explorers that recognize the source, El, and give thanks and praise to Elyon El, the Most High, the highest. The Egyptian Ankh was altered to become the Tau Crucix, then it became the cross of Christianity. Now, they put the halo over the head of the crucified person, which is the top of the Ankh, the original cross. It is better to be silent than to tell a truth that will cause pain or that springs from a wrong motive. A truthful person has power, for what he or she says comes to pass and his or her words becomes law. Cleanliness also extends to the mind. Only when the mind is purified of all things can it be a pure mirror for clear reflections. Laughter comes from stimulation, but a smile comes from inner peacefulness, satisfied with itself. The mind needs nothing else for its contentment, which grows in proportion to awareness of the inner self. External objects should not affect the mind. They may be possessed, but with detachment. Do not let them possess the mind. Austerity means curtailing the insatiable demands of the senses. To reduce the outflow wasted mental energies, the senses must be subjugated. 1/4 of one's energy is diverted to the digestion of food, which is often eaten for the pleasure of the taste buds rather than for sustenance. Additional mental and physical energy is squandered in useless idle talking. Learn control of the tongue by observing silence for an hour or two a day. Our senses have been habitually overfed and geared to gluttony. One should examine all worldly habits and curtail them sharply. The compass and square is one of the many symbols in Freemasonry. None are more important than the compass and the square. Since the 18th century, this has been accepted as the Freemason emblem. Sometimes you may see it with a letter G in the middle. To many American Freemasons, the emblem is not complete without this letter. This is not so in other countries. In other languages, God does not start with the letter G, neither does geometry. April is named after the Latin word aprio, meaning open up, because it is the month when plants spring forth life after the winter. April was once called Easter month, in connection with the holiday Easter. The Christian concept of a trinity comes from the three positions of the sun, in the Egyptian trinity: Autumn Re, morning, Atun Re, noon, Amun Re, evening. But the divine, Egyptian, family incarnate was a quantity. Organic foods are grown in laboratories instead of from the earth, and they are said to not be sprayed with pesticides and fertilizers. Even still, organic foods are not good for you because they are not grown naturally, and organic foods can be infected with bacteria. This information has been confirmed by Stephen Harper, a food scientist and director of research and development for Cascadian Farms, an organic food distributor. He stated in Newsweek magazine, "There really isn't any difference between organic and non-organic as far as the risks for, say, Cyclospora or E. coli. We have a lot of the same handling conditions, a lot of the same workers. We process in many of the same plants. Therefore, this just defeats the purpose of so-called organic health food. Grow it yourself without harmful pesticides, or get to know your local cultivators and their practices. Cowboy is the combination of the words boy, which was a derogatory term used against Negro men, and cow, which was used because the Negro man drove the white man's cattle across Indian land because they could not do so without getting scalped. A natural linguist of native languages and a successful trader for supplies and other provisions. York was not just a slave or servant of the Clark family, as their story claims. If York was really a slave from birth, how did he know the language of the Shoshones and many other Indian dialects? He was a free man in the company of his father, Yusuf ben Ali aka Old York. His father, a Malian Moor, navigator and translator, knew several languages such as Arabic, French and Indian dialects from whom Ben learned. Who was Percy Levon Julian? Dr. Percy Levon Julian's 1899 to 1975 discovery saved thousands of people from blindness. He is responsible for the creation of cortisone, a sterol derivative. While Europe was using animal bile to extract sterol, Dr. Julian used soybean. However, many scientists were never able to see beyond the fact that he was a Moor, a black man. His medical and scientific achievements were responsible for reducing the suffering of millions of people, including some who tried to keep him from accomplishing anything at all. He was one of the greatest chemists of our time. February. It is named after Februz, the god of purification who dwells in the underworld. March was the beginning of the year. When the Romans added February, it was to be the last month. Thus, it was named after the Latin word februm, which means making clean. The month of February was a time of religious purification for the coming year. The Feast of Purification celebrated by the Sabaeans was held on February 15th. There are some cows that are bred, that never take a step forward in their whole life. They are raised in cubed areas no larger than their bodies, just waiting to be slaughtered. This is cruel treatment. These conditions are subjected to many of the animals enjoyed on your kitchen tables. At least if you plan to enjoy food, investigate. Do you know what veal is? It is an unborn calf, a fetus taken out of a mother, as if animals have no feelings except for the dog, known as man's best friend. Poverty Point in northeast Louisiana, which archaeologists consider to be one of the most impressive and puzzling settlements, that displays the transition from archaic culture to an era known as the Woodland Period. It was inhabited between 1500 to 1000 BC, and several thousand people are estimated to have lived there. It was there that hunting, fishing and gathering people built 5 or more earthen mounds, 2 of which are considered by archaeologists to be massive bird effigies. Bird effigies appear all over the United States. One of the effigy mounds is our own, Eagle Rock Mound, in Georgia. This is because we, Moors, New Buns, were known as the bird people. Give more than advice, help. You would have never thought that a breeze or creaky building, or shadow or reflection was a spirit or a ghost if it were not placed in your mind from the media, because 99% of the population has never seen one. You would have naturally thought it was the wind blowing a door, or the building shifting, or fog resulting from warm moist air over the cold ground. There are no facts showing someone came back from the dead. Therefore, if you really want to know where ghosts came from, ghosts were created in Hollywood for the movies. Since then, how many nightmares have you had, and how many ghosts and demons have you seen? Another reason for this fallacy comes from people who are afraid to die. They are the ones who really created the ghosts. This gives them something to hold on to. It also gives them a way to think they will be able to come back to the physical world because they refuse to let go and move on. Women are constantly being exploited in music videos, which are nothing more than 3 to 5 minute pornography movies. There should be a warning at the beginning, middle and end of each video saying, "Warning. Sex can kill you through the contraction of AIDS and the other countless amount of sexually transmitted diseases." Moreover, the majority of music videos that are shown today depict a young couple who appear to be in love, then, within the next 2 minutes of the video, they are in bed. Nowhere within that 3 to 5 minute time lapse does the girl tell the guy, or vice versa, "Let's go to the clinic and get checked out first." Who is Sacagawea? Sacagawea, who was a Shoshone woman, is on the silver dollar released in the year 2000 AD. It's a historical collector's item. It is impossible to speak of Sacagawea and not mention the Lewis and Clark expedition, in which both Ben York, great-great-grandfather of Malachi Z. York, and Sacagawea participated in as valued traders and translators.